Well, originally I wasn't going to do a full length album review for this one, but dang it, if it isn't just so charming, I couldn't help. Here we are. Let's dive in. All I need is a TV show, that and a radio. Gostraks from Lunear. So Lunear is a French progressive rock outfit. They kind of got onto the scenes back in 2018 with Many Miles Away, and back in 2020 they actually sent me both of their albums of Many Miles Away and the follow-up of Curve Access Symmetry, which I really love. Like, if you're looking for some really good, more heavy prog aspect on your side of things, I think you'll really get something out of them, and I've always looked forward to more music from them. So they decided for their third album, the three boys within the band, JP, I'm going to try these, so JP Benadir on guitars, bass, and vocals, Paul Jano on keyboards and vocals, and Sebastian Bronier on drums and vocals. All three sing throughout it. Again, apologies if I got any of those wrong. They decided to do a full-length cover album, which, you know, as a full-length album, it's a little tricky when you come out with a covers album. But I think that we have something a little special on our hands within this one. The thing that I love about this is the album flows beautifully from track to track to track to track. Like, at no point is there any gaps between tracks. There is definitely like you know that you are coming out of one track and into another, but the way that they tie together almost in a narrative story all these tracks is quite beautiful and quite wonderful. I also love some of the artistic liberties that they've taken with a lot of these tracks. Like, the album itself opens up for Turn It On Again being from Genesis, and basically using guide vocals, the third track of the whole 1, 2, 3 punch on that album, as the beginning point for Turn It On Again from Duke. It was brilliant, and I love it because originally there was this whole Duke suite where, you know, the first 3 tracks of Duke along with Turn It On Again and the last 2 tracks of Duke were one full song. So I really do love that, you know, they incorporated that ideology into it. And I love kind of their take on these tracks. I do think that some of these tracks don't necessarily have the full scope and energy that the band really needs to use. And I mean, I understand it, you know, because it's basically just the 3 guys coming in and doing a lot of these tracks. And for a lot of these tracks, they have a lot more oomph, a lot more power behind them. But still, they're able to construct their own writing styles to kind of fit the bill. And the same can be really said with Modern Love, the second track from David Bowie. Starting off very somber, very slow, very thought-provoking and very thoughtful. But then going right into the bigger sounding soundscapes of the actual track itself. You know, it's a little bit bigger in scope. And I really do enjoy that. Now, I'm not as familiar with a lot of these tracks. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not as familiar with Warriors of the Wasteland from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, or Inside by Silk Skin, or Sleeping Satellites from Tomas and Archer. And even though I don't know these tracks, there's still a lot of enjoyment that I get from them. And I like kind of the dynamics that these guys put on it. There's a lot more, I don't know, Lunear thumbprints on it, shall we say. But what I really do love is, even though, you know, I love good 70s music and I love good prog, I also love what they do with some more pop works on here. Like, they put Perfume from Britney Spears and Venice Bitch from Lana Del Rey front and center on this album. And I love Venice Bitch, and I love what they do with this album because they take that raspy Americana, very dreamscapey outlook on that, kind of recontextualized it in a much more singer-songwriter, a little bit more of a like storytelling aspect on here that provides a really interesting flavor of Venice Bitch. And they took a really big and powerful and bombastic pop song of Perfume and brought it down to earth and brought it a little bit more into a tangible sitting room in that case. The last 2 tracks I'm going to talk about before I get to the last one is Shake the Disease by Depeche Mode and Renee by Talk Talk. And again, these 2 tracks I'm not all that familiar with. They're not quite my flavor when I come to music, but they're still quite enjoyable, and I really do like what Lunear does with it. The final track of This Is the 21st Century, originated by Marillion. the lead singer on this one, and I'm not quite sure if it's JP, if it's Paul, or if it's Sebastian, it channels Hogarth's vocal range perfectly. Like, this is the 21st Century from Marillion. It's almost a carbon copy, and I was just shocked at how well these guys were able to reinterpret and recompose this track for this album. Like, if I was listening with my eyes closed, I would have thought that this was the Marillion track. You know, like, they've done enough to recontextualize it and recompose it so that it doesn't feel like a carbon copy of the original. But man, it feels like they hired H from Marillion to come and sing this, because it's uncanny how similar it is. I was blown away by this presentation on it. So yeah, in the end, Gostraks from Lunear, even though it's a cover album, and I'm not a big fan usually of cover albums, I found myself having a good time with it. You know, it's a really good introduction to the band, what they have to offer. I think that it allowed them to kind of stretch their legs and also develop some of their skills a little bit to come back into the writing styles and the writing room to really put out a really banging fourth album. And I'm really excited for what they have next in store. But I got to rate this guy. I need to rate this guy. So I will say, in the end, Gostraks by Lunear is still one that I would download. It's enough to have on your computer. It's enough to take away with you while you're on a nice walk or something, but I wouldn't necessarily come to this album first. I would honestly recommend, if you want to get a good taste for Lunear's album, try Curve Axis Symmetry. I think that one is still my favorite album of theirs. It has some really good, like, neo-heavy prog that I think you'll really enjoy. So yeah, that's what I've got for you guys today. What did you guys think about Gostraks from Lunear? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And I think that's all I've got for you guys. I think that's all I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.